From the land of lakes, this is 10,000 Takes, brought to you by Minnesota Score Radio. Wally and Eric back for yet another week as we slice and dice the always busy, always topical, super saturated Minnesota sports scene. And Wally, here we are, mid-June now, and MLB taking center stage, although the NBA and the NHL have still made news, and MLS is up and going, WNBA, mini camp, your favorite event.
Oh, Lord.
Out in Eagan.
In other words, it's just baseball right now.
Pretty much. And so the Minnesota Twins back home after a road trip that took them to Florida and then Canada. They went 2-4. You had the I-94 rivalry this week with Milwaukee. Only 2 games midweek. That is one downside to the interleague play, no doubt. That should be a weekend series.
That's stupidity is what it is. And they've done that the last couple of years now.
Yeah.
You play 4 games against your quote-unquote natural rival. Well, that can't be on a weekend because you're 2 on the road and 2 at home. So, you're not getting that huge crowd that you would ordinarily get on a weekend. I remember those Brewers series here. I mean, Target Field would be packed. And vice versa. Twins fans would travel to Milwaukee for a big weekend, but now it's in the middle of the week. It has to be because you can't play, or you don't play 2-game series on the weekend.
If the Twins could dictate their schedule, they would have Milwaukee on the weekend.
Of course.
They'd get the New York Yankees on a weekend mid-season, not April and May. Same with Houston. When they see the LA Dodgers, it would be middle of the year, not April. Toronto would always be a weekend. We saw what happened when the Blue Jays came here a couple weeks ago. Those fans flock in from Canada. I mean, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Ontario, they love the Blue Jays.
Medicine Hat.
Yeah. Moose Jaw.
Moose Jaw, all your favorite towns and provinces.
Yes.
No, I just think, and it's across Major League Baseball, so the Twins aren't alone on this, boat out in the middle of nowhere when it comes to these interleague games against your natural rival. So when St. Louis and Kansas City play, it's in the middle of the week. Yeah. And when Cincinnati and Cleveland play, it's in the middle of the week. It's stupid, which is why I keep telling you that all this interleague play that you love so much, it's just dumb. I
am a
way rather
proponent
see
of
it.
interleague play. I will admit that's a glitch, though. The natural rivalry games need to be on weekends, at least one of the series, and maybe you flip-flop it each year, home and home type of deal. But yeah, I still like seeing these different clubs come in. I mean, Detroit is here all weekend. The Tigers don't move the needle. I mean, they make 3 trips in.
Wait a minute. They started the weekend only, 3 or 4 games out?
Well, yeah, because what's wrong with both the Centrals, the AL and NL Centrals? Flyover land is where mediocre or worse baseball is being played. I mean, these divisions are not very good. I mean, the strength lies in the East or the West. And I guess it's cyclical.
Well, let's hope so. Because otherwise the Twins and Cleveland and everybody else is going to be in for a long year. Look, I've been telling you this on the radio for the last week and a half. The Twins are fine, but they're not going to win the division. Cleveland's going to win the division. They're playing much better. They're hitting the baseball to go along with that pitching, and that's been their problem. The Twins still aren't hitting the ball. They have got to start hitting the ball.
Yeah, hard to argue. I think Cleveland probably top to bottom, including who they have in the dugout in Terry Francona, a seasoned World Series type skipper, probably will win it. I feel like the reason I'm going with your team, they grind a little more.
They do.
I think they get out and make it happen, and they're not worried about, hey, am I going to pitch X amount of pitches, or am I going on the IL? They just line up and play.
Yeah. Well, and they send the same lineup out there.
And that's huge.
Day in and day out. That's one of the things. I read a lot of what fans are writing either on social media or if you go to the Star Tribune underneath the comment section underneath Twins stories. And a lot of fans point out a lot of the same stuff that we talk about. They don't see this. Why don't we see the same lineup day in and day out? Why did Royce Lewis not play on Sunday after going 4 for 4 on Saturday? Riddle me that, Batman.
That makes zero sense to me.
Of course it doesn't make any sense.
If you're a ball player, you're going to play, and he's young, And I don't care if a righty's in there or a lefty. I don't care if you need a day off. That's going to come down the road. And let's face it, he just got back on this team a couple of weeks ago. You know he doesn't want to take any time off. He's not wired that way. And I don't think Sonny Gray is one of their top starters who continually gets yanked in the mid-innings by Rocco. Right. It's just the mindset. It's the MO of the organization. And I think it's a turnoff to a lot of fans. And the crazy thing is, they're in first place, at least at the time of this recording. But that does deserve an asterisk because it is in the AL Central.
It is in the AL Central, and they started out the week, the Brewers series, a game and a half ahead of Cleveland. And we'll see how it goes. I mean, Cleveland's got a rough schedule, and we're a long ways away here. I think we're getting worried too much about where people are in the standings now. But what you should look at is what we're talking about: the Twins bullpen, the lineup, and the injuries. And those three things have not gone well. And they're not hitting the baseball consistently.
City. Yeah. All these teams have slogans now. I think the Twin Cities should be Whiff City because they are striking out at a record pace.
Yes, they are.
And they're not hitting the home runs like they did in the Bombas season. So a lot of free air conditioning at trendy Target Field.
Yeah, well, when they're making outs, they're striking out. And that's, a lot of the launch angle and trying to hit it out of the ballpark and not putting it in play, not hitting behind runners. And
launch angle.
Well, there you go, man. That's how you win baseball games, apparently.
I have a bone to pick with almost every MLB analyst now. Why does everyone feel the need to dissect every pitch? Tell me it's a splitter, a sweeper, a cutter, in the zone, out of the zone. I think it's a turnoff for the casual fan who doesn't know a slider from a high fastball.
What is a sweeper anyway?
I don't know. It's a new curveball.
Yeah, it's a curveball that just kind of goes over the entire zone. If you listen to
John Smolson, he's really the top national analyst. That's all he does. It's inside baseball. Okay, once in a while, if a guy leaves a curve up in the kitchen and he hits it into, the batter puts it into the next zip code, tell me that's what he did.
Right.
But I want to hear stories. I want to hear personality-driven, information. I think Major League Baseball, your guy Rob Manfred, needs to tell these analysts to do something more than tell me what every pitch was.
It doesn't.
I mean, I watch a lot of baseball, but that's even over my head.
Right. It does nothing for me
it's boring.
To tell me what every pitch is or what every pitch is going to be.
Yeah.
Here comes a breaking ball. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, and then we already see it in the zone on television. We don't need to know what every pitch is.
Boy, yeah. And that little strike zone box that you see in your television set for every pitch, it's good and bad. It's good because it's kind of fun to see how good the umpiring is. And it really is very good. They're going to go to this automated strike zone. And occasionally there's a ball that's out of the little box that's not called a strike or vice versa.
Whoopee. I mean, you're asking for perfection.
I know.
Every pitch?
It's just amazing. When there's 200 pitches in a baseball game and you want every single pitch called correctly, come on, man. And they do a pretty good job otherwise, though. If you look at those games, I'll bet they're getting 98% of the pitches right according to the little box.
They are. And I think referees, umpires, officials in all these major sports that we follow, by and large, are very, very good.
Yeah,
when they screw up, especially if it's on a playoff stage or where the stakes are high, they're going to hear about it, and rightfully so. But for the most part, they get it right.
Yeah. All right, we need to take a break.
Yeah, we're going to talk some hoops. Lea B Olsen going to join us. Does work for the Lynx and the Timberwolves. A lot more coming up. We are 10K takes. Your sweeper, slider, curveball, fastball ticket. Knuckleball.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earring. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision. It's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
Welcome back. 10,000 Takes rolls along. We're going to talk some hoops now with Lea B Olsen. She is tied closely to the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Minnesota Lynx. Lea, thanks for joining us. You broadcast the games for the Minnesota Lynx, and off to a rough start this year. Is this the year that you want to tank it so you can get Caitlin Clark, or I don't know? You tell me.
Well, yes. I mean, what we understand is that there's two generational players that are coming out now. This is possibly they're coming out next year, both Caitlin Clark and Paige Beckers. Both of them could not come out because they both have COVID years that they could use and stay in. And Caitlin Clark has made one comment saying that I'm not sure if I will come out, but I think Caitlin will come out. Paige, I'm not 100% sure because of her injury. I think she needs to kind of still establish herself as one of the great players in college basketball.
Let me ask you a follow-up on Paige Beckers, and I thought this with Chet Holmgren, too, and we saw him get injured in Summer League play a year ago. And Paige Beckers, when I watched her in the Final Four last year, I thought, boy, she can play, but she is awfully slight. I don't know how she's going to survive in the WNBA. What are your thoughts about her physical build and how it plays in the WNBA potentially?
Yeah, it's interesting because she's super athletic. I think she's actually a better playmaker than Caitlin Clark is. But her build is a problem. And I thought that ever since we started seeing her in the state tournament, I think when she was a 7th grader, and she was just tiny. And you just kind of assumed, well, she's 7th, 8th grader, then you're going to be tiny. But then she never really got that much bigger. She grew taller. But she's very lean. And so I would say that is going to be a little concerning for her. Just at the WNBA level, I'm telling you, it is so physical and you have to be so strong. And to be able to get your shot off, you have to create space with being a physical player. And so I just think, though, that there is a natural piece that, she'll just naturally start gaining weight and getting bigger. And I think Chet's gotten bigger. And so I think that will come. I don't think it'll hold her back, but I think it'll be a focus for her to focus on her junior and senior year.
Where does Angel Reese fit into the equation? Obviously, LSU won the NCAA title, and she and Caitlin Clark developed this Larry Bird, Magic Johnson-like rivalry, and it really garnered a lot of television ratings for college women's hoops.
Yeah.
How good is Angel Reese? Is she the type that can go to the WNBA and become a Maya Moore type or Lindsay Whalen type?
She's got the physicality, the size, kind of all of those things. Like what we're seeing now in the WNBA that's already happened in the NBA is that they're going away from any player just being a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, and everyone can do everything. And Angel Reese is kind of the start of that, where you're kind of built like a post player, but you're pushing the ball down the court, and then you're able to post up on the block. So I'll be curious to see. I think she still has some learning to do as far as facing the basket and how she can play the game that way. And in the WNBA, post players have to be able to face the basket to be successful.
Lynx fans have been spoiled, let's face it, with 4 WNBA titles, more titles than all the rest of our, pro sports teams here in town combined, oh, by the way. But do fans have to get used to the fact that they are going to have to circle back here and rebuild to a certain degree before they're able to get back to that level?
Yeah, and I think the fans have gotten used to it the last few years. I mean, the Lynx have been kind of in a rebuild mode for a while. I feel like Coach Reed has been able to keep the team at a certain level. I mean, we've been able to get to that first round of the playoffs, and we haven't dropped off this year. Obviously, we have. But so she's done a good job of keeping the team at that mediocre level, but not at the greatness that everyone is accustomed to. So I do think it's hard. That's what sports are. They're cyclical, and no one ever is just going to sit at the top. And so this is an adjustment for Lynx fans, and I think people are kind of ready now for some new young legs.
What was it like a few nights ago? You're inside Target Center. Minnesota Lynx have a huge comeback to beat the LA Sparks, but they put Sylvia Fowles' number 34 jersey into the rafters, and Lindsay's back there, Simone's back there. Maya Moore comes back, and, she left in her prime. Did you get a chance to talk to Maya? Is she comfortable not being in basketball anymore?
Yeah, I think she's very comfortable not being in basketball anymore. I think actually she was comfortable when she left. She was ready to leave. And as hard as that was for all of us to watch and to take as fans of the game, I think Maya had a calling and was ready to move on from that. And let's face it, she had accomplished everything that you can accomplish in basketball. She's really the most winningest basketball player in college and WNBA history, and has done everything she needs to do in the game. And so I think she was ready to move on. It was super great to see her. I hadn't seen her since she had been here. And so everyone was just thrilled to see her back in the building. Sweet Sil was getting her number retired. It was cool to see. Everybody says the same thing about Sylvia Fowles, the nicest person on the planet, while being the greatest, most physical center to ever play the game. So it's a cool combination to have. She's just a real sweetheart, but very intimidating on the court. And then obviously it's always good to see Lindsay Whalen. I hadn't seen her in a little bit, and to have her get up there and speak about Sil and kind of the glory days and see a smile on her face again was really quite fun. So it was a pretty cool weekend.
The WNBA has had a policy where charter flights were not allowed until the postseason. There was a situation where Brittany Griner in Phoenix within the last week or so was troubled by a fan, somebody doing a YouTube video. What are your thoughts on the charter situation and how the WNBA players are forced into really a susceptible situation when they are away from the court and getting on airplanes with everybody else?
Yeah, I think it's super unfortunate. To me, I understand it's all about the dollars and when they can put enough money against just getting them on charters year round. I think to me that's the number one priority, even before bringing in new franchises or expanding rosters. I would work on getting them to fly privately, because these are elite athletes. You're asking to kind of go through airports like everybody else, and sometimes they're traveling on game days, which is, you should never have to travel on a game day. They don't fit into the airplanes that well. These women some of them are 6'6" and sizable, and I don't know. I think to me it would be the number one focus is to get them off of regular flights and get them onto charters. From what I understand is they are not only, people talk to them and fans and stuff, and that's cool in airports, but they do get a lot of comments and oftentimes negative comments from people. And I just don't think that our elite athletes for the WNBA should have to be dealing with that as they try to travel to game. And so I'm hoping in the next couple of years we see that they're off regular flights and on charters for every single game.
Well, Lea, we appreciate you spending some time with us, you and your dog, by the way. And we'll look forward to talking to you again somewhere down the road. And we'll talk some Timberwolves next time, too.
That sounds awesome, guys. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks, Lea.
Thanks, Lea.
Right.
Lea B Olsen, Timberwolves and Minnesota Lynx broadcaster, joining us here on 10,000 Takes. Stay with us. More to come.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earrings. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision, it's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
"10,000 Takes" rolls along. Time to talk some purple. Your Minnesota Vikings. Are they going to win the NFC North again this year? Run away with it like they did last year? Are they a better team come September than they were a year ago? I don't know. No Dalvin Cook now, right? He's gone. Eric Kendricks is gone. Patrick Peterson is a Pittsburgh Steeler. Adam Thielen is gone. These guys were kind of the heartbeat of the squad the last few years.
Yeah,
Your thoughts?
Well, I'll start with Eric Kendricks. As you know, I'm a huge fan of his. He brought a lot, on the field, but in that locker room
right.
too. He was really the soul of that defense, and he was their guy out in the community too. He did so much in the wake of George Floyd, so they will miss him. Patrick Peterson, savvy veteran. Adam Thielen, I mean, we know how good he was. And
right.
Dalvin Cook, I feel like people are okay with this decision. Well, let's not forget this guy not only ran the ball effectively, but he could catch the ball out of the backfield. He is, just in space, he is so good. He's going to make you miss, and he gets those
right.
Yak plays and chunk yardage runs and, or yards after catch. So are they better? Well, it's a great question. The NFL, each season's like a snowflake. They're all different. My gut tells me, no, they won't win 13 games this season, but they still might win that division because I think at least in June, it looks like it's the AL Central of the NFL.
It does, doesn't
because
it?
we don't know about Green Bay and Jordan Love. Now, maybe he lights it up. We just don't know.
Right.
Same thing, Justin Fields in Chicago. The Bears are optimistic. We know that. We've talked to people in Chicago, but they got to go out and prove it. So then you're left with Detroit. There's a lot of optimism in downtown Motown, but they have to prove it too. They're like the Timberwolves. I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, they got some gambling issues on that squad.
So by default, yeah, they do. They should move to Las Vegas.
Yeah.
By default, I think you're left with Minnesota, but who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, offensively, I think the Vikings will be fine without Adam Thielen and without Dalvin Cook. You make a good point. Dalvin in space is really good, but, he'd have a 120-yard game and he'd get 85 of them on one play, and then he'd have 14 2-yard games.
Well, a guy who goes 1 for 5 but hits a grand slam, it's still 4 runs, right? Knocked in.
All right, well.
He was a grand slam running back, right?
Yeah. I just think that he wasn't hitting the hole like he had in previous years.
Well, we're going to see. And it's not just Alexander Madison. It's a quartet of guys.
Right.
Kenny Nwangu is going to have to deliver, and some of these other young guys. And
I like Alexander Madison. I think Alexander Madison they'll be just fine with Alexander Madison.
Do you buy into the theory, and this is what some of the national NFL folks are floating out there in the universe, that the Vikings exceeded expectations a year ago and they had all those one-score wins until the playoffs?
No question. There's no doubt.
Okay, so we know that. But that they're doing this tear down now to maybe backpedal and try to align themselves to get the franchise quarterback this organization has coveted since Fran Tarkenton. Really, I mean, Dante might have been it, but shredded that knee.
Injuries, yeah.
And then we've had a lot of one-hit wonders like Randall Cunningham, Brett Favre, guys like that. But you buy into that?
I don't know. I'm still thinking that they're going to try and compete and rebuild at the same time. That's what they're doing.
Competitive rebuild. That's what Quasi called it a year ago.
That's what they're doing, and I think it continues.
Okay.
I really do. You brought back Kirk Cousins, so I think that's exactly where they are. As long as they bring back Kirk Cousins and they signed Alexander Madison, they could have let Madison go too. He was a free agent. Yeah. I mean, there are guys that they could have let go, and we don't know right now about Danielle Hunter as of this taping, as you like to say. So, it's entirely possible that they're going to try and compete again this year.
I will say this, and as we know with Tom Brady and Russell Wilson, you can find franchise quarterbacks lower in the draft, right? But if you're going to be competitively rebuilding, you might be in the middle or drafting even lower than that. Can you find that quarterback that you eventually want to replace Kirk Cousins?
Yeah, and will they make a trade is the other question. Do you go after like a Trey Lance?
Right.
And then maybe you have to trade Danielle Hunter. I don't know. Yeah. Well, we'll know more coming up in the next couple of months, that's for sure. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, Takes of the Day. You are watching 10,000 Takes, your purple ticket. Stay with us.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
earring. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision, it's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
$10K takes on television. We are close to wrapping up yet another episode.
Yes.
Before we go, we'll have takes of the day. And also, we need to get into the future schedule for Minnesota Gopher football. It's becoming more and more real. It's now crystal clear that USC and UCLA, much to my chagrin, are joining the Big Ten.
Well, wait a minute. You're a SoCal guy.
I am, but come on, it doesn't feel right.
Well, they'll still play each other every year, apparently. That's part of the Big Ten.
Does that mean SoCal's flyover land now?
Yes, exactly. So your Gophers in 2024, so this doesn't start. In other words, 2023 is the last chance for the University of Minnesota Golden Gophers to play in the Big Ten championship.
Yeah, that window that was like this a few years ago is about to hear one more chance to get to Indy.
It is over after this year. So 2023, this is it, baby. So in 2024, they have home games against Ohio State, Iowa, Northwestern, and Rutgers. They could probably go 2-2 there. Their road games at Indiana, at Michigan, at Nebraska, at Bucky, and then at UCLA. So they're going to the Rose Bowl, baby.
They are. How about that? First time since 1961. Don't forget they have a non-conference game against North Carolina. That's a pretty good program out of the ACC. But if you're really optimistic, the Gophers could go to the Rose Bowl twice in 2024. Maybe they go to that New Year's Day game coming up, and then they play UCLA a few months later. I know that's a pipe dream. That's a fantasy.
But I think our point at the beginning of this segment is the one to pay attention to. They better win it this year, the Big Ten West, because it becomes one big division and they take the top two teams to the Big Ten championship, and that ain't happening.
Exactly. And this is now going to become for Minnesota, Iowa, Michigan, Ohio State fan bases here in the Midwest. Hey, they're just going to go to California and follow their team. I think the Bruins, who struggle to draw fans, will become the LA Chargers of the Big Ten. And they will welcome in all these folks from the Midwest.
Yes. All right. I am told that we should be doing takes of the day.
We'll find out what your mood is. Okay. Grumpy Guardian, Salty Skipper, Angry American. What is it today?
Well, I don't know how often or how recently you've been to Progressive Field in Cleveland, formerly Jacobs Field. Actually, what I'm going to talk about goes way back even to the days of Municipal Stadium. There is mustard that is very famous in that part of the world, northeastern Ohio and Cleveland. It's Stadium Mustard. It's made by a company called Bertram's, and they have put that on the menu basically for this guy. Look at this video. This guy, yes, literally eating a bowl of mustard or a tub of mustard, that famous mustard that used to have Chief Wahoo on it. Well, now it's just Stadium Mustard. I have a jar of it at home, by the way. I'm sure you're surprised by that. Yeah. But I don't know. What it's good for is a guy like you. You don't need a hot dog. You could just, vegetarian, you could just eat the mustard.
I'll have to try it, although I'm sure you probably put the mustard on your Cheerios. Put it on everything.
Yeah, it's really good.
All right. Well, let's see what the mood meter says. Ooh, sarcastic Sam, and it lands in the yellow, as in, that would be mustard yellow.
Mustard yellow, yes. Colonel Mustard yellow.
Well, my take of the day, I'm a little bit more angry than you are for a change.
Okay.
The Jacksonville Jaguars want to renovate their current venue. And guess what, folks? It'll cost about $1.54 billion if they can get the funds approved. In other words, they got their hands out asking for Florida taxpayers to do this for them.
Of course.
But here's my rub. Jacksonville, where you have mild and balmy weather year-round. It is in the sunshine state of Florida. They, too, are getting a dome. They're calling this a covered canopy. Don't buy it. It's going to be a dome, just like SoFi in Inglewood, just like U.S. Bank in Minneapolis, like the new one in Vegas, like the one they're going to get in Nashville, the one they want in Chicago. Boring, sterile, homogeneous. Florida? Dome? Spare me. The NFL, all these things are now our big TV studios.
Yeah, they need it in Florida, man. You get all that heat.
Cover the fans. I'm okay with it, like Miami does.
Yeah.
But let the weather come down. I want those Florida monsoons. I love those games.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All
who
right.
doesn't? All right, on that note, let's FedEx out our thank yous. One to Alex Yambrick, David Weld, Rocky, Lea B Olsen. For Wally, I'm Eric saying so long. This is 10K Takes, your sports ticket.